Right. Uh, Hi, everyone. Uh, so thank you all for joining today. So I'm going to be talking about statement of purpose, how to write statement of purpose today. Uh, Let me widen my screen. Okay. All right. Give me a sec. Let me pull this up. Okay, great. So, for those that are just joining us, so I opened a YouTube channel about like just last week, actually, just last week, and we had a session last week, and so the session we had last week was about how to apply for scholarship opportunity, graduate scholarship opportunities in the U.S. And I took you guys through uh, step by step how to apply, how to look up, how to find schools, how to use usnews.com, a website called usnews.com to find schools that you can apply to in the US, and how to know if these schools have scholarship opportunities for you, and you know what you need to apply. So all of these things are in the last episode of my webinar that we did last week. Yeah, so if you missed that, you can come back to the video and check back and look through and watch. But for today, so I'm going to be talking about how to write statement of purpose, right? Uh, so those that are on YouTube, can you see my screen? Uh, yeah, I'm guessing you can. So how to write SOP. Now, so this is going to be a practical workshop in that I'm going to be using my own statement of purpose to show you guys how to write SOP. So I think, I mean, you can, I mean, there's no way we can talk about statement of purpose without showing samples, because it's not, writing is not a theoretical experience. It's kind of practical, right? You have to see what you want to, the kind of thing you want to write before you even think of writing it. So right on my screen is shown on my screen is my own personal statement that I used to apply to the University of Texas at Dallas. And so I annotated it paragraph by paragraph with comments to show you guys how you can uh, leverage this to write your own statement of purpose, a strong statement of purpose that will get you that admission that you want. So let's get into it. Now, so starting from title, right up there, you can see I'm a little dehydrated. So I'm going to be drinking water a lot. Now, so the first thing you need to know about statement of purpose is that so some people prefer to add title while some do not. It's not required. My statement of purpose does not have a title, right? But some people like to add title to theirs. But just think of it as an essay. Uh, just you don't need a title. That's just it. I mean, what you want to title is my statement of purpose, my personal statement. So statement of purpose is not necessary when it comes to writing statement of purpose. Now, before we even move forward, so I call it statement of purpose because that's like the most common term used for it. But some schools, you're going to be applying to some schools, and they will ask you for personal statements. Some schools will ask you uh, for essays. My school, they didn't call it statement of purpose. They said write an essay, right? Some schools will call it motivation letter. Some schools will call it letter of motivation. It has different names, but it's pretty much the same thing. Now, so a lot of people would ask, what's the difference between statement of purpose and personal statements? Well, the difference is that statement of purpose is a combination of personal statements and research statements. Everything about you, from personal to academic. But while personal statements, if you are asked, most schools will ask you for statement of purpose. While some schools will ask you for personal statements, but if they ask you for personal statements and they don't ask you for any other thing, then you should know that you are expected to come up with a statement of purpose, just like synonymous. But if you are asked for personal statement and then they ask you for another statement, like research statement, then you know that okay, the personal statement will be just the personal, like you're expected to write things personal about you, and the research statement is like okay, what is your, like, what do you want to do in terms of research? What are your research experience, your work experience, and all that? But generally, these two are usually used interchangeably. So now, so I said that titles are not required, right? So we can just start from the first paragraph, and that will be fine as well. So now to the first paragraph. The first paragraph is called a hook. So the problem that a lot of people, the mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to statement of purpose, writing statement of purpose, is that they waste their first paragraph. They waste it, and the first thing to bear in mind is that the people that want to read your statement of purpose are professors. They are very busy. One, and second, they they have a lot. You're not the only applicant. They have a lot of applications right in front of them. They're going to read all through out. They're going to read through all of the statement of purpose of every candidate. Let's say you have like 150 candidates that apply to the same program as you. You're going to read all through all those statement of purpose. They'll read through their recommendation letters. They'll read through all your CVs. So now just imagine that that kind of person has, is trying to like finish up all the applications they have in front of them in one day. And they've like reviewed maybe 50 people before they get to your own application. And they want to start reading your statement of purpose. So this person is burnt out, they're tired, they're just trying to finish up, and get on with some other things they want to do. So how do you get that person to read through your statement of purpose? Because like what they want to do is just want to like, okay, let's get this done with. They just came through. That's usually what they do. They just came through. Okay, okay, okay. Then they leave. So you want to that kind of person, you want to grab their attention from the first paragraph. You want to hold them like, okay, now let's do this. Once they read the first line and they feel like I'm just gonna sit back, grab a coffee, and read through everything, 900 words or 1,000 words or 2 or 3 pages, then you know that you stand a chance of gaining admission. If the admissions committee, someone in the admissions committee grab your SOP and they're like, I want to read this to the end, then that's it. You're already in the program. So that's one thing you want to pay attention to. So the first paragraph, don't make sure you don't start your first paragraph with irrelevancies like my name is. No, don't give them information they already know about you. Your name is all over the place. I mean, they know your name. You already filled in the application. They know the school you graduated from. So you don't have to say, yeah, I graduated from Obafemi Awolowo University or the University of Lagos. They don't care, right? Those information are already there. They want to know. They want you to convince them as to why they should select you over other candidates into the program. So the first paragraph is where you hold their attention. So if you can see my screen, those are on YouTube. So you see that yes, so my own first paragraph, I started with my story. So this is a format that a lot of people use. I love this. I love the format. Then I used it. But one thing to look out for in this format, it's a very tricky format to use. If you want to tell a story as to why you want to study the program you want to study, or why you even want to do PhD at all, you don't want to go on and on and on, like keep writing like for like 2 3 paragraphs. You are still telling that story. So when I was a kid, my dad was a mechanic, so we used to go to the, then yeah, I mean it's a nice story, but if you keep telling it for 2 3 paragraphs, come on, that's a waste of space. So you want to keep it short. If you want to start with an anecdote, you want to keep it very short, right? So my own first paragraph. Let me read it to you. Those are on YouTube. So I said, my conviction. This is how I started my statement of purpose. My conviction to pursue a career in molecular biology came 9 years ago. I was in high school. My father had just died of stroke after 12 months of struggling in pain with a deteriorating health condition. In tears, I queried his doctor, but how come the medications and therapies did not work? He looked at me and smiled. The treatments can only extend his life for as long as possible, but his condition cannot be cured. I was frustrated by this statement, but I was also motivated to emerge as a scientist who would design medications and vaccines that could cure such diseases considered incurable. A few years later, that's the second paragraph, I was admitted into the university to study microbiology, during which I became exposed to the fascinating world of molecular and cell biology. That's it. So I started and completed my my story. So the story I used was okay. So why molecular biology? Because my I wanted to study molecular biology, right? So why molecular biology? So I told them that so I didn't just wake up and say I want to study molecular biology. I'd been dreaming to pursue that career for about 9 years ago. That alone shows them that yeah, this person has passion for this, not just because they were told to come and study the program. So then I told my story. Yes, so I mean, my father died, and so I died of stroke, and I was like, I mean, why? I mean, we used all the therapies and medication, but he never got to stand up before he died, and the doctor told me, well, it's because the disease was not curable; it was just to be managed. And I was like, no, I mean, that's not supposed to be. So that's why I said, okay, maybe I'll just become a scientist and find a solution to that problem because a disease ought to have a cure. So, reading that first paragraph, your admission committee, the person that's going to be reading up, will feel like, yes, I want to finish this statement of purpose. That's the goal. That's if you are able to achieve that, if the admission committee feel like I want to read this line by line to the end, then you have gotten into the program. So that first paragraph is very important. Don't start with my name is. Don't start with I graduated from the for the best university in Africa, University of Lagos. Forget it, man. they they don't care. Okay, I mean the best investment you are competing with. You're not even competing with other Nigerians. You're competing with people across the world. Let's say someone is applying from graduated from Harvard and someone graduated from University of Alabama and you from University of Lagos is saying I graduated from the best university in. Come on now. So just tell your story, right? Start with something grabbing. It doesn't have to be a story. Let's start with something attention grabbing, something that will make the reader feel like I want to finish reading this statement of purpose. So so after the statement, after the first paragraph, then I proceeded to talk about. I told them, yeah, a few years later, I got admitted to study microbiology, and when I was studying microbiology, I became exposed to molecular and cell biology, and so what I wrote after that was I wanted to show them like I understand this molecular biology. I have some understanding, right, of molecular biology, what I want to study. So I wrote, this is some science. Uh, I said a few years later, I was admitted in the university to study microbiology, during which I became exposed to the fascinating world of molecular and cell biology. Then I wrote, I was particularly astonished by the concept of apoptosis. Apoptosis is a scientific term, right? How cells literally sacrifice themselves to save surrounding cells from damage, and how a lack of this little act of kindness at the cell level could result in devastating health conditions such as cancer. So what I did here, this is science, you may not understand. What I did is I picked a particular interesting topic that I love in molecular biology. Then I tried to interpret it in my own term to show that I fell in love with molecular biology because I love the concept that it teaches. Do you understand? So try to make them feel like you know what you're saying. That's another thing you want to bear in mind. I know what I'm saying. I want to study this program. If it's engineering you want to study, or physics, uh or gender studies, or communications, I don't know. Try to make them know that give them the impression that you know what you're saying, and you're not just someone who just woke up one day and say you want to study that program. So after this paragraph, now, so let me just pause here for a minute. So those are on space. I'm on YouTube Live, all right, and I'm sharing my screen. So if you want to see what I'm reading out, so you might want to join via YouTube. So my screen, the link is on my profile, on my timeline rather. So just go through, connect via YouTube, and look through, come and see what I'm sharing here. But if you feel like you can continue listening, yeah, that's also okay. So after the second paragraph, right? Then I move to the third paragraph. So this third paragraph, okay, let me come here. Great. So this third paragraph is about my experience, my work and research experience. In fact, my research experience. So after the first paragraph, now let's take a step back. The first paragraph is to tell them why I wanted to study molecular biology, right? What was my motivation for studying molecular biology? The second paragraph was, uh, showing them that I know a little bit about molecular biology, how I came to understand molecular biology, even though I studied microbiology in school, right? Then the third paragraph is my experience, my previous experience, my research experience, what I've done so far, you know, in terms of molecular biology and all. Now, so let me read this out to you. I said, sequel to my undergrad research, which focused on antimicrobial activity of charcoal, I set out to review current trends of certain infectious diseases. Now, so what I was trying to say here was I published a paper. Now, it wasn't even published at the time. So for those that usually ask, okay, okay, let me pause here. Last week, I told you guys, for those that came to the webinar last week. So I told you guys that one of the things that can get you graduate admission in the US or for grad school is publication, having publication. But I do understand that this is difficult, especially for people that are coming from developing countries that do not have access to a lot of research equipment and research facilities and resources. So, but what you can do is, I mean, your last year in the university, you did a project, an undergrad research project. So why not publish that? Send it to a journal, rewrite it, put it together, send it to a journal, cut it down, send it to a journal, and try to have it published. But you don't have to. I mean, we all know that academic publishing is usually very slow. It's a very slow process. It might take months to even publish it. But the good thing is that you don't have to have published it before you can use it for your application, right? So if you put it in your CV, you reference it, put the journal you want to submit it to. If you have submitted it, put the journal you have submitted it to, and just bracket in front and put in press or under review for publication. Then you can also talk about it in your SOP, and this is what I'm doing here right now in the third paragraph. So I'm talking about that publication I had. So my own undergrad research, I found out that I couldn't publish it. The data was not that strong. So what I did was I wrote a review article. So if you can't publish your undergrad research, try to write a review article like 3,000 words, 5,000 words, depending on your field. Then send it out to a journal for publication, a reputable journal, maybe international journal. Then cite it and come and talk about it in SOP. So I spoke a little bit in this paragraph. I spoke a little bit about my undergrad research. Then I talked about the let me zoom this out. Then I talked about that article that I wrote for review. Okay, great. So pretty much that's what I mean. It's all science, but you get the point. So this paragraph here, this third paragraph, is about my previous research experience. So I said in this vein, I authored a paper titled Listeria in Africa, a review, co-authored by Dr. Osman of the University for Development Studies in Ghana. And I mentioned the journal in which I published the article. So this is the thing you want to do in your third paragraph. What's your previous research experience? In terms of publication, in terms of especially publication, right? So now to the fourth paragraph. So the fourth paragraph here is now I talked about in the third paragraph I talked about my publications, especially publications. And then the fourth paragraph I talked about okay, so what research experience do I have in this field? What are the work experience I've had in this field? Relevant work experience. I mean, when I was in school, I was also a journalist, but I want to apply for molecular biology in grad school. So I can't come here and start talking about my journalism experience. I have a wide journalism experience, but I can't talk about that here. So and same goes for a lot of you guys out there. I know, I mean, you guys, aside from school, you have other things that you're doing aside from your programs. So if it's not directly related to your program, don't put it. All right, don't put it. So whatever you want to put in your SOP should be directly relevant to your program. Should be something that a professor will read and say, okay, let's take in this guy. So the first paragraph. So I said in a bit to gain hands-on experience, practical experience in molecular techniques, I voluntarily stayed back 3 months after my final exams to train as a research intern under Dr. James at the Center for Advanced Medical Research and Training at Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. So that was the school I went to, Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto. So, so these are things you want to be adding. Like, what are the extraordinary things you did back in school that will give you an edge over other people, over other applicants? So when I finished my undergrad exams, signing out and all that, everyone was going home. I didn't go home, so I stayed back. So what I was doing, staying back, was trying to gain research experience. Working in some professor's lab. I put this in my SOP. But if you don't have this, that's no problem. You don't have to talk about what you don't have. But what you can talk about, what you can also talk about, is your experience in IT, your IT experience, your CWES experience. I think most of you guys in science and maybe arts and all that, you guys will have been asked to go for IT or CWES programs. You guys will know this. So this is where you bring it up. So I brought it up after saying this. Then I said, okay, during this period, so I said what I did. I said I did molecular procedures, including DNA extraction, DNA purification, PCR. Those are things related to molecular biology. Then I said, in addition, I did a 6-month internship as a medical lab scientist in a hospital. So this is my CWES experience, right? My IT experience in my, I think, 200 level and 300 level were required to go to maybe a hospital. I studied microbiology, maybe a hospital or somewhere to do your IT program, your internship program. So I brought it back here. I accumulated all the experience together, all the things I did during those days and where I did them. Then I mentioned them here in my SOP. So this is what you want to do. So you might sit down and think, I don't have any experience. I mean, you've had them. So it's just you that will say, that will mention them in your SOP, right? So your CWES program, there are things that are related to your field. Those are experience. Those are your research or your work experience. Mention them in your SOP. Write them in your CV. So then after that, after saying what I've done, my internship program, my internship experience, then I said that I wanted to gain more hands-on experience. At the time, it was during the pandemic when I applied, and so I wanted to, because I understood that I didn't really have much research experience in molecular techniques. So I felt like maybe I could intern with some uh, other laboratories or other companies in another company. So the company then was 54 Gene. So I wrote it here that I wasn't. So the interesting thing is that at the time I had not even applied to that place, but I just said it there that to gain more hands-on experience in molecular diagnostic techniques and to improve my practical knowledge in genomic research, I aim to intern. I had no intern then. In fact, eventually I didn't even go to that place, but I put it in my SOP to show that, yes, I mean, even though I don't really have that much experience, I still want to have more. I still want to get some. So if when you're writing your SOP and you find out that your experience is not that much, you can fill it in with things that you want to do, that you are planning to do, experience that you are planning to gain. So that shows that, okay, even though you don't have that much experience right now, you're still planning, to get those experience, right? And I also added here that with my growing interest in bioinformatics, I'm actively learning programming languages, including C++ and Python. Up to now, I still haven't finished learning it, but it was a good thing to add at the time because so everywhere, the future is tech, right? Everybody's saying that. So I felt like I should put it here that even though I don't have that much experience in tech, I'm currently and actively learning those programming languages. And so I think that kind of gave me an edge over the competition. So that I think that's the third paragraph. No, the fourth paragraph. So the fifth paragraph was also about experience, but this time my teaching experience. Now, so why did I bring up my teaching experience? I brought up my teaching experience because in graduate school for PhD, especially for PhD program in the US, you are expected to work as a teaching assistant. If you miss this, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch my previous video, the one I did last week, where we talked about how teaching assistant work, as a teaching assistantship works in the US. So that's how, like, okay, let me just talk briefly about it. So in the US, so if you apply to a PhD program or a master's program or a graduate school, and you are offered a scholarship program, the scholarship opportunity, the scholarship offer rather, the scholarship offer will include a tuition waiver. They will pay your tuition. You're not the one that will pay your tuition. But at the same time, you, aside from doing your research, you are going to be working as a teaching assistant. So as a teaching assistant, what you are expected to do is to help professors that are teaching undergrad. So the professor can tell you, okay, be helping me to teach them a workshop, every week. Like, okay, answer their questions and all that, or help me grade their assignments. Usually, that's what we do. We grade exams and assignments so that the workload will not be too much for the professors. So for doing this, you get a stipend every month. So it's like getting a salary for working. There's no free money. So it's not free money when people say, yeah, I got a fully funded scholarship. They're not dashing you money to come and study. So you are here to study, but at the same time to contribute to the workforce. So you are working as a teaching assistant, in the university, and you are getting paid for it every month. In my school, they pay $2,000 every month to us for doing teaching assistantship job. So I knew this. Then I now thought that, okay, I have some teaching experience. Back when I finished my high school, I taught some home lessons to some students for like 1 year or so before I got an admission to study in the university. So then when I was in the university, I usually teach tutorials to people, especially people in my department, they bring their mathematics and everything. I teach them, and so these are not it's not like a formal experience, that informal teaching experience I've gathered all together over the years. So I calculated them together and I said, okay, I have 6 years teaching experience. Then I put it here. So I think, in fact, I can particularly say that this might have given me an edge over candidate, because for my in my program, about 113, we were told that 113 applied to the program. No, 118 people applied to the program, but only 13 people got into the PhD program. 113 people across the world, all over the world. Only 13 people got into the program. So what does that mean? It means that they must have, if they selected me, me, I'm from Africa and I don't have that much experience, but if selected me over a lot of 100 candidates, for that program, for 13 of us who have gotten it, means that about 100 candidates got a rejection letter. So for me to have been selected, so it means that they must have seen something, like a potential in me, that okay, this guy is going to bring something to the table. So, and those that thing I want to bring to the table is what I wrote in my SOP. So here I said, furthermore, my 6 years experience in teaching, both as a school teacher and as a volunteer tutor, gives me a competitive edge. In fact, I even told them that I know that I have 6 years experience, and I know that this 6 years experience, a lot of other candidates do not have it. And so I know that that's a competitive edge for me, because I'm going to be working as a teaching assistant, and that's a good experience to have, right? And an edge to have over other candidates. So I said from my, so I know a lot of you guys during your university days were teaching tutorials up and down and all that. So this can be, oh, someone said zoom in. Oh, okay. Uh, okay, okay. Let me see if I can do that. I can't. Okay, I'm just gonna continue. So they wanted me to zoom in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you can't say that much. So I'm just gonna continue. Now, so like some of you guys used to teach tutorial in your school, right? While you were in school, you used to teach people tutorial up and down. So those are teaching experience. So you can put them together and use them as an edge to get over the competition. So I said I continue that from my second year until graduation, I ran a private tutorial class on campus where I explained seemingly difficult courses and practicals to juniors and peers from my department, as well as other departments in the science department, in the sciences. So I said these include, I mentioned the courses I used to take, especially courses in my department that I know that, okay, this course, if I know them, they will they will consider me like, okay, I mean, if you're good in these courses, then you are a good molecular biologist. So I mentioned those classes, genetics, bio 201. I even put the title of these courses: MCB theosis, microbial physiology and metabolism. So, and I said, in fact, so this is even funny. I said a large number of my students passed their exams with good grades. So I was a student teaching other students, and in fact, they are not even other students. There are, some of them are even my colleagues, and some of them are juniors in the university, and they are passing their exams. So I think this paragraph is just important. So you don't have to have teaching experience. What I'm trying to say is that if you know that you have a particular experience that you feel that a lot of other people rather, a lot of other candidates do not have, may not have, write it in your SOP. That will be what will make you stand out in the competition. So if everybody's writing, yeah, so I mean, yeah, I have experience. So you to put something unique in that in that SOP that makes you stand out. That's very very important. You have to stand out. You have to have something that a lot of people do not have, and you'll be like, okay, I mean, let's just consider this guy. He's bringing something else to the table that other people are not bringing to the table, and you have to be confident about it. So that's the fifth paragraph. So I'm sorry if you guys can't see well, but I hope you can really. Uh, okay. So they say I think I've been able to zoom in now. So yeah, so I think yeah, I've been able to zoom in so you guys can see well. All right. So after my research experience, so after my talking about my now, so let's go back a little bit. So the first paragraph was the hook, the first paragraph talking about why my motivation for studying molecular biology. Then the second paragraph was uh like, okay, why okay, the second paragraph I'm trying to look for a line to use to describe it, but I would say, okay, like what I love about molecular biology and why I fell in love. That's the word. Why I fell in love with molecular biology. All right. Then the third paragraph is my research experience, the publication I've, I've had, my undergraduate research, first of all, my undergraduate research, then a review paper I published with one professor in Ghana. It wasn't even published at the time. So that's the third paragraph. So the fourth paragraph is now about my research, my work experience, relevant work experience to molecular biology. I'm studying molecular biology, and I've worked in different labs when I was in CWES and IT. So I talked about those specific with specific details about the techniques we used and everything, and those places, the name of those places. Then the fourth paragraph, no, the fifth paragraph is my teaching experience, my 6 years teaching experience that I have with specific details on relevant courses that I taught. So then the sixth paragraph, which is the second to the last paragraph, is why this school? Why am I applying to this school? So what I did here, and so this is very important because every school, like I mean, there's about 3,000 universities in the U.S. Why did you apply to my school, to our school? Those admission committee members, they always have that at the top of my head because, like, are you applying uh because you could not get admission into other school, or you particularly want to come to my school because you see something there? So what do you see in our school that makes you want to come? You have to put it this in your SOP. So I said this. I said in search of a suitable university to pursue my PhD in molecular and cell biology, I came across the works of Dr. Zhang. I mentioned the name of a professor, which fascinated me, particularly his research on. Then I mentioned now. So what I did here essentially is I named professors in the department, right? Because I mean, first, how I found the school was that yeah, so I was going through internet, of course, to search for schools that I can apply to. But while I was doing that, then I found this professor and this another professor, and I found their research, and I was like, wow, this research is interesting. So let me check out their school. Then the school happened to be UT Dallas, and that's it. So that sounds like a reasonable reason to give as to why you want to go to the school. Research, right? So the professors, so you found their research. You can name two professors. In fact, I was even smart about this because the first professor I named was the program coordinator. So, and he would be, in the admissions committee. So I felt like, as I mentioned his name, maybe if he reads through, I'm sure he's going to be reading through the application. And if he reads through the application and he sees his name inside the application, maybe that will like work magic. And maybe he did. So, so you can mention one or two professors, maybe that the word professors we've been talking to, or you can just website and just mention them and the research that they do and say, well, so I came across these professors and their research, and I felt like I need to apply to this school. So that was one. So the second reason I gave was that this program I wanted to apply to in that school, it has multidisciplinary curriculum, which I perused on this, which I read on the school's website. And I said that that convinced me that UT Dallas in this university is the perfect place to pursue my PhD program. That was the second reason. Now, the third reason I gave was, interestingly, it is ranked first in the US among universities under 50 years old. And it is 11th, it is ranked 11th in campus ethnic diversity, making UTD a home for me as an international student. So information about the school are always on the website. So if you are trying to explain why this school, don't formulate anything from your head. Just go to the school's website, read all they will hype themselves on their website. Of course, they will hype themselves. So go through that website. So go and read through those hypes and include it here. Now, so what I did here, so I said it was ranked fourth in the US among universities under 50 years old. That was a pretty reason to say you want to go to a school. But even what's even more interesting was that I'm an international student, right? I'm black, and these racism issues in the US. So I said I was looking for a school that will make me feel at home, and I don't want to like experience racism and all. And so when I saw their statistics, their rating or their ranking on ethnic diversity, campus ethnic diversity, I said that, I mean, they ranked 11th on that ranking. So that means that, and that's true because my school has a lot of international students. You are the first international students you find are Indians, then then Asians like Chinese, Japanese, and all these Asian people, then black people. Before you even see whites, you must have seen Indian first. Before you see any whites, before you can come across white people, you will first see Indian people, then Chinese or Japanese or Asian people, before you see white people. So meaning that it's diverse. I mean, there you will see black people, a lot of black people were black on my campus, and so I felt like this is a strong reason why I would want to apply to this school, and I stated that, and I think that kind of helped as well. So when you're writing your SOP, you want to make sure that reason as to why you want to apply to that school, right? So that's my sixth paragraph, making my sixth paragraph. Then to the last paragraph, yes, the last paragraph. The last paragraph is about my career goals. Like, okay, so after the PhD, what am I gonna be doing? What's my okay? When people ask you, what's your plan? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever? So that's where you want to end your SOP. So, okay, if we admit you into this PhD program, what do you want to use it for? Right? That's the best, that's the most reasonable place to end your essay. After your paragraph, I'm sorry, I said paragraph. After your PhD program, on completing your PhD program, what are you going to be doing? That's your career goal, you know. So I said, well, on completing my PhD program, I would like to pursue a full career in the academia and become a scientific leader with my own independent research group. Let me contributing to human health in biomedicine while successfully attracting R1 grants from agencies such as NIAID, whatever. So this last paragraph is basically, yes, I want to become a professor, right? And I want to become a faculty. I want to have my own lab where I can, be mentoring PhD students and master students. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to work as a research as a professor. You can just stay here. That okay, after on completing my PhD program, I would like to work in the industry, in the research development, uh, you know, in research and development, right? That's what they call it. So I would like to join the industry and work in research and development and contributing to biomedicine or whatever you want to contribute to. Now, so this is the trick I applied, and this my mentor, when the person that reviewed my SOP was an assistant professor in the US at the time before she crossed over to the industry. I found her on LinkedIn. I talked about this in my previous video. You can go and watch that. So I said that. So she told me that uh, if I wanted to become a professor, one of the things professors do, especially in the West, is they look for grants. What makes you a professor is how many grants you get. So that's what makes you a successful professor. So that was why I added this paragraph. Why successfully attracting grants from agencies such as this. So showing that and so the trick to this, adding this sentence, this line, is that you know exactly what you're going to be doing and what it takes. So you don't just know what you're going to be doing, you know what it takes to do what you're going to be doing to get there. So if you're going to be working in the industry or whatever you say you are going to be doing, you can mention specifically how how do you hope to achieve that goal? Or when you get there, what are the things you're going to be doing? All right. So that was why I added, okay, grants. So I'm going to be getting grants, looking for grants, getting grants from agencies. So specificity is very important. It's very key, especially when writing SOP. Be specific. Give details. When you are mentioning your research experience, give the name of the company you worked with, the organization you worked with. If you are talking about your research experience, give details about the paper you published, about your undergrad project that you did. Details is very, 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 very important. If you have experience, teaching experience, how many years teaching experience? So and so with this, so I said I look forward to a favorable and that was how I ended my SOP. And 3 weeks after, I got an admission from the University of Texas at Dallas. So it means that whatever you see on this screen worked out. So while those are joining via Space, Twitter Space. So if you want to read through my SOP that I've just read out, you can come and watch the video on YouTube. Of course, it's recorded and it's going to be posted uh, after this space, right? So the link is on my timeline. So you can come to YouTube and read through what I just talked to you about. So with this, I'm going to say thank you to all of you guys for joining me today. I will see you next week. So next week, I'm going to be talking about. So I try to do this webinar every week, once in a week, right? So I'm going to be talking about maybe about CV writing or how to write academic CV using my personal academic CV as a sample, right, to show you guys how you can come up with your own academic CV. So with this, I'm going to say thank you all for joining me. See you guys next week. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that whenever I can also post videos, 2 short videos, whenever I think there's something important to talk about. So that you guys can get notification when I have anything posted on this space, on this YouTube channel. So thank you all for joining me. I wish you the best of luck in your graduate application. So bye bye.